We have Abhivardhan, I think a specialist in AI governance. And my thought process really aligns with the work because I have been figuring out on all of your works individually. And with generative AI, Abhivardhan, that has been always, producing deep fakes, informations, and a lot of other miscalculative approach, I would say. Where do you see India currently standing in terms of global AI regulations? Because you're in the governance part. And probably, how is it that we compare with other countries' frameworks, maybe Europe or US? Like if it is in a form, comparatively in a form of misinformation, where our youths are quite vulnerable to this approach. What governance model do you think that we as a nation should adapt?
It's a pleasure to speak alongside the Reverend Member of Parliament. Now, one thing which we see with respect to the youth is that definitely misinformation is a global problem, and India is a victim of it. Information warfare definitely affects us across ministries, departments, and even the judicial institution. I think my perspective for the youth will be that I think number one, a lot of misinformation is driven by a very unreasonable cocktail of LLMs and recommendation algorithm. And while the former is a new thing since 2023, the latter has been an old thing since a long time, like 2019. That is something which, in the advertising side of things, maybe our courts can play a very productive role involving issues where the violation of the IT Act comes in. But while misinformation is one aspect, one thing which concerns me is about the way we look at our AI talent. Now, we used to think in the age of early social media in the 2010s that you can go to Seattle, you can go to Singapore and start something in tech. Now you can be somebody in Rajkot with good internet, maybe potentially data center. You can get some minimum compute for research. You can partner with somebody from Singapore, and then you too can partner with somebody in Austria or Estonia, European country, and then those people can partner with somebody in the US. So what I mean is that we are all AI economies are decentralized, and our talent is so critical that no matter what AI company you develop, no matter what AI opportunities you develop, I think protecting our talent and giving them a pathway that they can actually do better from a labor ethics and labor security angle is very important. Because while AI advancements are happening, I don't think that people who are domain experts or people who are upskilling themselves are not needed. So that is also because of the misinformation wave, right? Because it has been spread across that Indian talent is not needed because AI will wipe out jobs and all that. That's not happening because even in the bigger firms in the US, the adoption rate is going down. So see, it is one of the outcomes of misinformation.
Technology is evolving every few days, few months. So it's high time that the parliament passes a comprehensive, law. There is talk of the Digital India Act of 2020. It has been discussed for the last 2 years, but we don't know what's happening. I think METI is still working on it, but it's high time that we come up with a holistic umbrella piece of legislation that will also regulate AI.
I think that which you have mentioned, sir, very rightly mentioned, that who is to be blamed. And from there, I would take it up for Abhivardhan, because you have been closely working as a specialist in AI governance. As sir mentioned, that there was a comic example, there was a serious example, and we all are aware of the November 27-24 the issue that was created, how AI responded to Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud's penalty request, and the questions, whatever was raised, was misquoted, fabricated, and biased. So we would like to understand from you that in terms of AI, and as Turing test sir mentioned, can AI ever be trusted in sensitive judicial matters? And actually, as he rightly pointed, where's the responsibility for those mistakes? Is the developer, is the user, or it's the state who has to be blamed? And where do we create that red line where AI is not allowed to operate at all?
I will take a little bit of an Indian legal example because we have other technologies which also have been regulated in India. And basis on that, I'll also give an aspect at what can be done in India. So like Sujit ji has pointed out about that sad incident in the United States, similarly with AI agents, which we have seen a problem that they penetrate the application and OS layer of Android and iPhone. And then they penetrate the idea of consent in such a vicarious way that nobody can even trace that beyond giving consent one time, how exactly am I going to be affected? Basically having a cybersecurity risk. So definitely questions of liability should arise by now, irrespective of what kind of AI it is, whether it is generative, non-generative, symbolic system. But even if we take fintech law, for example, in India, we started with very close-ended, I would say high stakes regulatory approach under the RBI, and we came up with sandbox. If I'm right, there has been a sandbox approach so that you do innovation, but you have a pilot that, because AI governance in the field which I am in, it's actually a part of data governance. Now, everywhere, data governance will involve various life cycles of an AI system. So, when you are at a post prototype stage, it's actually possible to audit it and then see how can you establish a form of accountability. I think that is something which at a minimal level can be done even for a startup and even for a legacy company. But at the same time, I think we should have a legal right to AI literacy like we have citizen charters for multiple things, with whether it is aviation, whether it is passport or anything, because a lot of public-private partnerships with AI will. So I think so. A lot of, like Sujit said, with AI as a technology, it is just evolving in its way that we can't establish human trust in a stable sense, as opposed to something like a wheel or something like a pen or something like an iPhone. It is just, or that's how automation works. A lot of times it's also happening with generative AI that we don't even know how these models, and therefore lack of explainability of the model architecture also creates problems. So I think, yeah, some limited accountability can be started, but while tech behavior can't be changed with LLMs, it doesn't mean that companies should get away with it. But I think it can be started with data governance. I think that's a very good metric. And we should have insurance provisions, at least for civil liability to begin with, considering chatbots proliferating everywhere. So
Sure. That being said, I think, sir, you've really very well elaborated what the youth needs to be precautious of. But Abhivardhan, I would like to understand this thing from you especially, because we have spoken on the measures and governance and everything. And as sir mentioned that it's all about the biased feed that you're giving. Whatever you feed into the system is going to give you the same output. So do you think that it is truly empowering the youth, or it is actually creating a sort of digital caste system?
I would say that sadly, large language models are creating a digital classism and cultism. And that is not necessarily just because of data bias, because a lot of time it's variance and all that, and there are a lot of machine learning techniques to fix that. But the problem is, uh, and I think this has been summarized very well by Dr. Feifei Lee. She's a visual world model expert in machine learning. What she says, and I agree with her, that the concept of language in language models is that languages are like signals. So suppose you have an AI system which has to observe something in the visual world, like my photo or my video or something in the mountains, something in the city. When they, that's why CCTV cameras which have AI are more accurate than large language models, because they experience something in a visual sense. Now, languages are signals. So what happens is, when they engage in a way, they I coined a term 2 years ago. I call it consent manufacturing, which is to say that, let us say I'm engaging with a bot. I am talking to that bot in my text form that, you know what, hey, please make a itinerary for my visa application. And I am talking to it like 10 times. Now, the first and second time, I might have that cognitive sense that, you know what, okay, this AI is within my grasp because it is responding in a particular way. But after 4 and 5 response, AI will force you to give too much information, which can even go beyond your understanding of human autonomy. And you might give it believing, because we are human beings. We love anthropomorphization. We love human attributing things. So I think, yes, it's creating, I mean, you said digital caste system, I
Yeah.
said digital cult system. So